Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Gamerdisco podcast. Today we're joined by Rory, our music guru from Gamerdisco. I'm sure those of you who come along to Gamerdisco will be very familiar with Rory. And Harry again.
Evening all.
Yeah, guru.
All morning, whenever you're listening to this,
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to kick off today. We're going to be talking about Mortal Kombat, which has just been released. So we're going to be talking about video game adaptations. So Rory's going to lead that. And then we're going to be talking some gaming news as well. So we'll kick off. Rory, what are your thoughts on the new Mortal Kombat film?
Well, it's been a long time. It's a long-awaited reboot of the franchise since there was the original Mortal Kombat adaptation in 1995, which I would regard as one of the superior video game movies that were made. Partially that's the nostalgia talking, I suppose, but I think it's maybe video game movies that are most sort of fun and playful. Then there was the less well-received Mortal Kombat Annihilation a couple of years later. And now we have this long-awaited reboot, which promised more gore, more fatalities, and a lot more swearing than previous iterations. And I thought it was fine. I have my kind of issues with it, and I feel like part of it is to do with the big question is, can you make a Mortal Kombat movie where there's no actual Mortal Kombat tournament? And the whole pretense of the film is that this is kind of like a prelude to the tournament, and they keep on talking about the tournament, and it's kind of like when Milhouse is watching the Itchy and Scratchy in The Simpsons, and when do they get to the firework factory? In a way, like that in of itself is not necessarily a bad idea in order to avoid retreading what came before. But at the same time, you've got to replace it with something juicy. And I think the film, in the first half, when it is kind of Sub-Zero stalking people and things, it kind of plays like the Terminator with icicles. Once it kind of like gets to the sort of like training and all the gangs assembled, I actually think it loses its way quite a bit and gets very muddled and confused. Not going into sort of too much sort of spoiler territory for those who haven't seen it, but I'd say in the grand canon of video game movies, it's sort of mid-tier for me.
It's funny you say that. We were discussing this earlier and saying, yeah, it was fine. Like, not great, but it was good. It was passable as a video game adaptation for a film. It was fine. It was enjoyable. I mean, personally, myself, I found it, very enjoyable. Quite funny as well. I didn't think it would be funny, but there was lots of humour in it. And
I think it was all the humor was distilled into like the Kano character.
Definitely.
Which was fine. I mean, for me, he was like the MVP. He was the one who kept things entertaining when things were getting a bit too self-serious and a bit too drab. But it would have been nice if the humor was shared out a little bit more amongst the rest of the characters. But you went to see it in the cinema, didn't you, Harry?
I did. I have missed the cinema, and that was very nice. It was quite empty, so that was nice too. But it's just nice to be back in the cinema.
Just the last film I saw in the cinema was Sonic the Hedgehog. That goes to show how long ago I have last been in a cinema.
I think mine was 1917 of all films. That was a long time.
That long ago?
That long, yeah, I know. Wow. I'm sorry. But,
catching some silent cinema, no doubt.
Let's go with that. I think it was a good film. Humor was good, and it was quite violent, I thought. But again, I think they toned it down just enough to make it a 15, didn't they? Because it was a 15, not an 18. So they wanted to get more revenue, I guess, from tickets and younger people.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff which borders on the upper gore threshold for sure.
Yeah, without giving any spoilers, obviously. But there's it's a bit edgy in places.
You see a lot of anatomy.
Let's go with that.
I didn't really. Do you know what? I didn't actually find it too violent. personally.
Interesting.
I mean, it was. I'm not saying it wasn't violent. I just mean it wasn't as violent, maybe, as I expected.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
the
that
promise
makes
was
sense.
that they said that we're going to finally deliver you the fatalities and gore and stuff
Exactly.
that was promised, and it is in keeping with the games, and particularly with the evolution of more recent titles like Mortal Kombat 11. You have all this very high fidelity gore, like we can animate all the blood splatter like you could only have possibly dreamed of when the game came out originally in the early 90s. But I think that sort of does the original adaptation a little bit of disservice, because that does maybe not so kind of like gory, but it still has fatalities. It still has characters being often, recognizably fatality style ways. So, I've got to defend what came before a little bit in that respect.
It's funny you say fatality. I did quite like in the film when they sort of mentioned a word or a phrase that I recognised from the video game series. I mean, I wasn't too familiar with the series as a whole, but I did know some phrases and characters from the series, and when I saw them on screen, I was like, oh, I know that one, I know them, they're good. Oh, they said the thing! They said the thing! Great.
But at no point did anyone scream, Toasty! Which is a little bit disappointing.
Shame.
I was hoping, without going into too many spoilers on different fatalities, I'm not going to mention them, but I was kind of hoping to see a spine ripped out. That didn't happen. I was like, that. I feel like that is, for me, that's kind of key. Along with the phrases, you do get some of the good lines, like "Come here."
Mm.
Good.
I've got to save some for the sequel. It'll be.
You've got to save something. That's it. They're saving it for the sequel, Rory. Okay.
Mortal Kombat 2. This time with spines being ripped out.
Exactly.
And the bloody tournament, though.
Yeah. And I'm not a violent person. I don't, to be honest, I don't enjoy like horror films and stuff. I'm not big into Saw or anything, but yeah, I maybe kind of expected more. So I'll be completely honest. I hadn't seen this film till last night and left it a little bit to the last minute. And I thought, I wanted to see it in the cinema. Couldn't really find it on anywhere around London very easily. Because I wanted to catch a daytime show. So I ended up just renting it through an online streaming service that I won't mention. And it was 16 because they haven't sponsored it. So, and it was £16. And I thought, that's hefty. I mean, I know it's a home premiere, but I felt £16 for, it's not, if it was James Bond, fine. But I don't know, for Mortal Kombat felt a bit punchy.
I think the world is changing in that regard, and they haven't got it right quite yet. Yeah. I'm sure they will in time, but I guess at least for now, they need to start off strong and maybe dial it back later.
Yeah, I would probably, I think £16 is maybe a little bit too much. But, if you watch it with more than one person, then works out cheaper than most London cinema tickets. So,
love it. Well said, Rory. Well said. Good defense. Who is your favorite, or which Mortal Kombat character would you choose to be and basically have their powers if you could choose any of the characters?
Have unlocked their arcana.
Exactly. Thank you, Rory. Unlock their arcana, to use the lingo.
I think I would plump for Shang Tsung.
Okay.
Because not only can he be any character, if I'm going for it, I would be going for the 1995 movie version played by Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa in delicious fashion. And I'd just like to swan about my magical island, enjoying the beaches and occasionally sucking out a soul every now and then. Sounds like perfect way to spend my rest of my time.
just sucking out souls. Sounds great.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you get out of that on a day-to-day basis? Just being you're sucking. I mean, I imagine he's not a big hit at parties. That's all I'm saying. But
yeah, he really is he the life and soul of the party, or does he just remove it all?
Sucks out all the soul. Harry, what about you? Have you got a favourite?
Oh yeah, definitely Chun-Li.
Chun-Li, most famous Mortal Kombat character, Chun-Li.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw this. There was an article written that came out praising the trailer first came out, saying, it's trailer's great, but where's Chun-Li? And no one knew, like, okay, does this person realise that that's a different franchise? Or was it intentional to try and drum up interest for the film and the website? I would guess the latter, but I just found that quite funny.
I think it was a trolly, clickbaity
I dare say
bit of
so.
fun.
But I mean, I don't really know the franchise that well, but Sonya Blade, she seems quite hot, so maybe her.
I do like, to be honest, I like Sonya Blade's ability to, fire lasers from her hands. It's pretty cool. But that very cool. I would go for Sub-Zero because I'm thinking, popular party trick that I can chill my beers down. At about James, beer chilled when you go to the party, like there you go, great, perfect.
It's funny, James, how your criteria is who would be the best at parties. Like, not who's the best at fighting, not like how you'd like to spend your time. It's just like, oh no, who'd be best at parties? I don't know, Jats, because he could open any bottle with his bionic arms.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, Rory, not necessarily fighting. I'm just like in day-to-day life. What skill would you like to have? No, you're not having to fight in a tournament. This is just you. Just
a lot of house parties.
Just in my life would just be great. Chill down, making ice for my whiskey. Anyone annoys me, I just freeze them. Brilliant.
That'll learn them.
That'll learn him. So
yeah, I mean, I think as a video game film, as they go, it was good. It was fine. I think we are definitely on the cusp of better ones. Like, I think Sonic the Hedgehog was quite good. There have been films in the past that were good too, and I think there's Uncharted coming out quite soon with Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland. I'm apprehensive, but I think that's what video game films need, is kind of a very cinematic game to put on screen that translates well to film.
Yeah, I co-host the Games on Film podcast, and I host it with my brother Harry. And the idea behind when we started this was because the general consensus is that video game movies are, generally speaking, bad. But there are plenty of bad movie podcasts out there already. So we wanted to take the approach where actually we're a podcast which tries our best to celebrate video game movies, find the good in them. So even some of the ones which have, pretty bad reputations, like Street Fighter, like Super Mario Brothers,
Dead or Alive,
we actually think, see, now DOA Dead or Alive, I think is a cracking film.
It was fun.
I really enjoyed it.
Where Holly Valance fought someone without wearing a bra and put the bra on whilst fighting them. That was just fun. And
that's multitasking at its finest. But the thing is, so we've done about 75 or so episodes. So when you think of video game movies, you kind of think of the big hitters, but there's plenty out there. I mean, there's at least 20 Pokemon movies if we're going to go down that route. But I think you're right. In terms of sort of upcoming video game movies, you can see a lot more where the games companies themselves are trying to be far more involved. So, PlayStation have actually set up PlayStation Productions, which is making film and TV shows. So yes, the Uncharted movie is a PlayStation production. They're also working on the Last of Us TV series. And I think you'll find that there's video game movies, but you'll see more and more video game TV shows, and not like Super Mario Brothers Super Show or like Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons of before, but big level live action quite often productions. So you have Halo coming to Showtime. Fallout has been developed by Amazon. Last of Us, as I mentioned. Twisted Metal is another PlayStation production coming up. And even stuff like in the animated realm, I really enjoyed the Castlevania series on Netflix, which just had its most recent season just released. And Netflix are doing quite a lot. So you have Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, Devil May Cry, Sonic Prime, Cyberpunk, Tomb Raider, live-action Assassin's Creed, and another live-action Resident Evil series coming to Netflix, as well as, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City coming later this year, Sonic the Hedgehog sequel, Mario movie being made by Illumination. There's even a Tetris movie coming out later this year, but it's more about the development and release of Tetris itself. It's not a film in which big blocks like fall through the sky.
That's a shame.
You don't think that would sell 2 hours of just blocks coming through the sky?
I mean, on a similar note, I watched and suffered through Pixel, so I don't need to see that again. But I will for the podcast. But yeah, so there's plenty of stuff coming up, and you're going to get bigger names and bigger companies involved to try and, it's all about brand identity, but there's potential for good, entertaining movies as well.
Rory, do you know much more about Fallout? Because that's actually one of my favorite games. I know that the people writing or the creators are, what was the series they worked on? Westworld.
I think it's Westworld.
The Westworld creators, right? Who are the showrunners behind it, which is one of my favorite series. So I'm very, very excited about the Fallout series or film, whatever they choose to do.
Yeah, I think it's all in the sort of early development stages at the moment, so we'll just have to bide our time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'll be plenty more to come in the next year or so. So it's exciting. It's interesting. There's going to be lots of material for us to talk about anyway.
Excellent. Oh, excellent. So moving on, gaming news. Harry.
Alrighty.
Yes. Sir.
So let's start off with new releases. This month, the Mass Effect Collection came out. That's been long since anticipated. I guess you can play the game with the ending you wanted to or not, because there was lots of controversy surrounding that when it first came out. Remember that? That was mad.
Yeah, we actually on the Games on Film podcast, I haven't played any Mass Effect games, but I did watch Mass Effect Paragon Lost, the animated movie set between I think Mass Effect 2 and 3, and I did not care for it, but the games I understand are far superior.
I didn't know that was a thing. Also, you mentioned there's something called Game Builder Garage coming out. I'm not even sure what that is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So it was only recently announced, but on Nintendo Switch, Nintendo are releasing this title, which is basically a create your own video game.
Okay.
So much like something like Dreams, but probably taking its cue a bit more from Mario Maker, but also having quite a few elements which I think inherited from WarioWare DIY, which I played a lot on the 3DS, and I made loads of micro mini games, because with WarioWare it's all games lasting only like 5 seconds or so. And this seems to sort of take the cues from that and make it ready for Switch and expand the games. And I think there'll still be like fairly mini game experiences. It won't be quite as in-depth and intricate as something like Dreams. But the way it's presented is, typical Nintendo style. It looks really fun. It looks bright and colorful. And anything which gets, probably younger people into, understanding the skills of development and understanding, if you do this, then this will kick that off, etc. Is a good thing. So I'm looking forward to spending a bit of time with that over the summer and making some little mini game titles to share online.
Yeah, they're always fun, aren't they? I was blown away by when Mario Maker came out, like how many levels were made, and some of them are just insane. People got really into that, and they were just impossible. Some of the levels were just mad.
Yeah, and in a way, it almost like negated the need for Nintendo to make another Mario game. It's just, you've got all this creativity, and, if you've got Mario Maker or Mario Maker 2, you've got, millions of levels with which to play forever. I'm a little bit disappointed that Super Mario 35 is no longer playable, because
hasn't it? That's a shame.
Really enjoyed that. Yeah, that definitely was a lot of fun. Pac-Man 99 sort of is meant to replace that a little bit, but I don't enjoy Pac-Man as much as I do Mario Brothers. So
that's fair.
Never mind.
Cool. What else came out this month? Well, big news. The blue Nintendo Switch Lite came out. I mean, we are honoured. Honoured, thanks Nintendo. That's what we wanted. Yeah. Obviously, a recent release was Resident Evil: The Village, which got a good reception. But of course, the tall lady in it got the internet very excited, and the memes and information about her has just spread like wildfire. It went mad.
It just keeps coming. I've been playing Resident Evil Village and enjoying it a lot as someone who's played, I think, pretty much every main Resident Evil installment apart from 6, which I played the demo of and thought was complete bum. So I was I was off Resident Evil for that part of time. But yeah, I haven't got too far in Village, but I'm enjoying it a lot. It's definitely taking, obviously, Resident Evil 7 vibes, but mixing it up with Resident Evil 4 in terms of like the feel and the setting. And it's like a big, like very heightened, over the top, quite campy in places, but really like fun horror experience. So yeah, enjoying being chased around a castle by a very tall lady.
It's a bit more like Silent Hill, I guess.
Oh no, I think it's more kind of like it's I don't know. It's definitely like juicy and silly, whereas Silent Hill, I think, is trying to be a bit more like psychological and get under your skin a bit more. But hey, it's early stages for me. I understand it gets a bit freakier in parts, but yeah, at the moment I'm having a good time with it.
I mean, Resi, I'm always impressed because they're constantly reinventing themselves. Like, they started off quite psychological, then they went to more action with Resi 4 and more first person. And yeah, I guess they just see what's popular and where the world takes them.
Yeah. I mean, it's celebrating its 25th anniversary this year and doing a lot better than survival horror games that came before and after in terms of longevity, at least.
Nice. Okay, what else this month? So they have announced a new Time Splitters game is coming at last by the original team. Now that is very exciting.
I played. I didn't have the first Time Splitters because I think that was PlayStation 2 only. I didn't have a PS2 at the time, but yeah, I played Time Splitters 2 a lot. I played Time Splitters Future Perfect a lot. Much like I was saying with Game Builder Garage, I played like the map maker on both of those, and I made my own multiplayer levels. I made my own like single player levels. I really enjoyed that aspect, but it was just I think it's nice to have a first person shooter which has like humor and like sort of a fun style about it. I think, I always thought that Fortnite, the characters and things looked a lot like Time Splitters characters. So, having that sort of feel back is going to be fun. It'll still take a while because they've only just announced they're setting up. They're relaunching the original studio, Free Radical Design, with, as you said, original Time Splitter creators Tim Ellis and David Doak, aka Dr. Doak from GoldenEye. And yeah, just as a subsidiary of Deep Silver, with plans to then develop a new Time Splitters game, but it will be a long time, I think, before we see anything from that. But yeah, I'm excited.
Early days, but it bodes well. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
What else this month? So yes, Netflix have said they're looking to expand their interactive entertainment section. So there's no word yet on whether this will be just like more Black Mirror Bandersnatch type things or maybe more interactive games. But they're looking to explore it, so that can only mean more content. That's a good thing, if you ask me. Mm-hmm. Twitch has now launched a dedicated hot tub section after massive fan outcry when they said they were going to get rid of them. And people want to apparently watch gamers streaming from hot tubs. I didn't realize it was that popular, but amongst other categories, it's now a whole dedicated thing. Good for them. I mean, to each their own. I'm not here to judge.
Sorry,
yeah. I think it's just. I think it's. Sorry,
no,
James.
I was just going to say. I just think it. So wait a minute. Are they actually playing the computer games while they're in the hot tub?
Yes.
It just seems like that's a recipe for disaster.
You think?
Like, just sorry for stating the obvious. Like, when are we going to see? Hopefully nothing happens. But I just think I'm not going to say anything more. Actually, I don't want to tempt fate. But
touch wood.
Let's touch wood that nothing disastrous happens. I just think it's a bad idea, and let's just stop.
This is what wireless controllers were invented for, though, James.
That's true.
Fair point. Okay.
But it's part of like a larger thing that Twitch has introduced finally, loads and loads of tags.
Yeah.
Because it was quite limited in terms of the way you could tag your channels. So,
Okay.
as well as that sort of thing, they've launched sort of trans tag and
That's good.
LGBT and trans, etc. and
which is
for
great.
black streamers and everything.
Yeah.
So it means you can sort of like find people you want to see in that respect. And I think the whole hot tub thing is really because Twitch has restrictions on nudity and exposure of skin. And it says you're allowed to do so if you're wearing like a swimming costume or in a pool style setting. So they're circumnavigating that by like doing streaming in a paddling pool or a hot tub. So fair enough. You got a loophole. Might as well make the
Having
most.
said
Life
that,
finds a way.
having said that, can we get all of us at one point in a hot tub playing games and stream it?
I'm in a hot tub right now, guys.
Oh, that's what that noise was.
Yeah, you can't hear the bubbles.
Oh, put them on.
Living my best life.
As you
Coming
should.
soon. Coming soon. The Gamerdisco boys in a hot tub streaming on Twitch.
I'm not sure we'll sell
Watch
many
this
tickets,
space.
but we shall see.
What else we got?
So
What else
online
we got?
events. So EGX has announced they're going online this year, much like E3. Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? In my eyes, it's a good thing because it will allow more fans to join and look at new games and maybe not play them, but at least experience the latest gaming news up front. I remember I had long since wanted to go to E3. I'd dreamed about it for years. Then when I finally did, I got a bit disappointed because it was like 3 or 4 hour queue just to play a 20-minute game demo, and that's it.
Yeah.
But maybe moving it online is a good thing because more people can enjoy it.
Yeah, so I think the main EGX is still tentatively scheduled for October, and the EGX Rezzed, the sort of more indie version of that, is moving online to July, which follows E3. Also, Gamescom is going online again for understandable reasons. But yeah, I think these kind of big events they've had some time to sort of sort it out, and in a way, I remember when Nintendo decided to say, right, we're not going to do like a kind of big show at E3 anymore. We're just going to do Nintendo Direct. And people were like, well, what's this? It's just like a video presentation. It's not the same thing. And then cut to now. And it's not just in these kind of like big event shows, but you have, for instance, like there was the Sonic Central stream, Resident Evil, when it was doing Resident Evil Village announcement. It had like Resident Evil Showcase sections. So even like for specific games and titles and companies, they're doing their own streams now. Like PlayStation does its state of plays, and a lot of these are all just because of, I guess, Nintendo Direct and what they did. And that way you're getting the news direct to the fans. The main thing is creating that kind of event atmosphere where it is more engaging the fans in playing the games or stumbling across titles that they wouldn't necessarily play. When I've been to those big shows and stuff like EGX Rezzed, which I really enjoy, is that you have those big queues for 3-hour titles, but I'm more likely to hang around in the indie section because you get to meet and chat with the developers themselves. You get to try out games which often have more creativity and are more inspirational because they don't have such huge budgets attached to them. So it allows them to think outside the box, and you'll find some new, weird, crazy, different play styles. And that kind of areas of those shows is what really fires the imagination more. So taking that online, if they can do more to incorporate, putting people in the right direction and getting demos out there that people can play very easily, I think that's the sort of best approach to it. And I can imagine in the future you will have more hybrid stuff, more things being live streamed and more things where people at home can interact almost as much as people in person.
Sure. That's for the news this week. So the only question left is, what have we all been playing this month? That's what we normally do.
You've left off couple of vital pieces of news, Harry. One I'm very excited about. is Four Quarters, which I'm sure everyone knows is the gaming arcade.
It's coming back.
It's coming back. So there's two. There's one in Peckham, and there's another one in Stratford, and they're launching a new one. Very exciting in Elephant and Castle.
Ooh.
It's going to be 3,000 square foot. It's got 20 vintage arcades. It's very, very exciting. And also, obviously, it will have consoles as well. It's going to be their biggest bar yet.
Is that going to be in the old shopping centre?
Very good question. I'm not sure. It's going to be Elephant Park.
Okay.
So, yeah, which I haven't been to, but I imagine it's not too far from the tube station. So, yeah, very excited. It's actually, 30 arcade machines, not 20. 30 arcade machines, including like Street Fighter 2, one of my absolute favorites. Obviously, Pac-Man, the perennial Pac-Man. The Simpsons, which is, if you haven't played it, is a brilliant arcade game.
Great game.
Really good. And
yeah, hard to find unless it's in an actual arcade,
exactly.
or it's not so easy to find online. Because it was on the Xbox Live Game Store way back when, but then due to licensing and things, it's no longer available, and that's the issue with these licensed games, is that they exist, and then licenses need to be renewed, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, and then they disappear. So playing it in the arcade for real is the best way, and perhaps the only way to play the Simpsons game.
I mean, speaking of licenses and games, I was very glad Scott Pilgrim came back, because that took a long time and lots of fan outcry in order to get them to bring it back, because it disappeared off stores for a long, long time. But for their 10th anniversary, they did get the rights sorted, and the rights, it's now been re-released. That's good.
Excellent. And it will also, I should say that I think the ultimate arcade game, Time Crisis 2, they'll have there as well. So I was
always more of a Point Blank man myself.
Oh, really? Okay.
No.
Yeah, Point Blank's my shooting game.
Okay.
I liked iToy.
iToy?
Yeah, interactive, and you could, like, I think there was one game where you could sort of use your hands, and I enjoyed that.
Okay. Fair enough.
Well, I'm looking forward to the House of the Dead remake.
Yes, we mentioned
on Switch
that last episode, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, that's the sad thing about having modern TVs, is that none of my old light gun games work anymore. I can't play House of the Dead 2, can't play Confidential Mission, forget about Duck Hunt. I just it's a sad loss.
No. But at least arcades are coming back and the world's reopening, so
exactly.
Lots to look forward to. Well, I mean, that's it. We've kind of done the episode in reverse this week, but we normally start by saying what we've all been playing recently. So, what have you all been playing recently, James?
Me, I'm still hammering my way through Yakuza. So I'm playing Yakuza Kawami. So I'm on the last level now.
Cool.
Very excited. I did nearly complete it last week. And I was really annoyed. I was really irritated. I had the final boss, and he had two like henchmen. I killed the henchmen, and then he brings them back to life.
Oh.
And I was like, and he completely screwed me over. So yeah, then it was a dick move. And then then I died. But I'm gonna have another crack at it later in the week. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Love all the whole.
Yakuza is the kind of, like, I really want to get stuck into the franchise somewhere, but I hear like Yakuza 0 is like a good jump in point, because while it's a prequel to stuff, it's it's like a modern version of it, and like you get some sort of fun 80s stuff. As someone who loves the Shenmue games, it's a little bit different, but a little bit similar, but like 80s Japan, but also beating up punks and stuff is my bag, so I should probably get around to that sometime.
Rory, 100%. I would start with Yakuza 0. 80s Tokyo. Well, it's not Tokyo, but you know what I mean. It's 80s Japan. You can't beat it, and especially if you like Shenmue, then
cool.
Brilliant. What about you guys, Rory? What about you? What are you?
Well, as well as Resident Evil Village, I've been playing the Spider-Man game, which I'm just like catching up on this backlog of titles. So enjoying that kind of swinging around stuff as someone who really enjoyed the Spider-Man 2 video game back when the Sam Raimi film came out. I'm getting a kick out of this because I think like just the dynamic, the gameplay, it's got good game feel, which I think is something really hard to describe. But with a character like Spider-Man, having the kind of the motion and the swinging is really important to make the game enjoyable. You don't want to get kind of like attached to a building and then swing straight into it and get stuck too often. So I think it has a good flow, which I think is really crucial.
Yeah, that was a great game.
So that's fun. And also been playing a bit of 2 Point Hospital, which is got this really fun British sense of humor. All the different like illnesses that you have to help cure as you run these hospitals, and this sort of theme hospital style gameplay. Have that kind of I think the characters look a little bit like Aardman animation as well. So it has this kind of like Wallace and Gromit feel to like the jokes and how things look and stuff, and I think that really helps the sort of entertainment value of the game, while also making it's really hard to get through a year at a hospital and not have any patients die. Sadly,
I'll bet.
That's like the challenge. But I'm getting there.
This is what Boris Johnson used? Is it to do his COVID planning? Just a bit of
controversial
2.0.
I think he probably got game over very quickly.
Yeah. What about you, Harry?
Me, so I've been playing through the Professor Layton games on Android, which are really good ports, actually. I'm onto Diabolical Box. Really good games, and it's a great format for playing them, because they're made for sort of short form, on-the-go gaming. And they're really gorgeous. I'd recommend those heartily.
Okay.
Are
they not on?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, they were originally Nintendo DS, but they got ported to Android and iPhone, and they did a really good job. Actually, they look gorgeous. They look very crisp. Great games.
Excellent. Yeah, I love the Professor Layton games. I think I played at least the first 3, and as well as the Phoenix Wright crossover.
I didn't try that.
That was good fun too. I bringing it back to video game movies, Professor Layton and the Eternal Diva is pretty good Professor Layton movie.
Oh, good to know. I will check that out.
Yeah, I think it's like got the same kind of voice cast and the same animation team who do all the cutscenes in the video games as well. So definitely feels like a new installment of Professor Layton for you to enjoy, and there's puzzles in the film that you kind of solve along with the characters.
Oh, that's nice.
Excellent.
Cool.
So to round up, also we've had an email.
Our first email. Exciting.
Our first email. Let's not. Yeah.
Don't make it sound so.
First of many. Yeah. Episode 3, and we've received our first email.
You should say the mailbox is like bulging. The mailbag is bulging.
It is bulging.
And this one like surfaced to the top amongst all the other like well wishes, the bouquets of flowers.
The email at the top of our list was this.
This was. I'm still waiting for the beer to come through, but that's fine. So top of our list was this question from Charlie from Southampton, who asks, "What game would we play if we had one game and that you just play for the rest of your life, and that's it? That's your only game. What would you choose?"
Who goes first?
That's a good question.
As the guest, you go.
I think I would probably plump for Animal Crossing.
Okay.
As a sort of desert island game, that makes sense. Or if it's just going to be the one game you play, because I think it's one of those games where you get out as much as you put in. It has the sort of creativity aspect to it. It has the socializing aspect to it, be it with real people or just with your animal buddies. I think I'd probably go for Animal Crossing New Leaf currently, just because that has more to it, the last game on the 3DS. But we'll see. If New Horizons gets more updates, then I would plump for that one, just being it's the shiny new modern one. But I think I could live the rest of my life just playing that. I'd probably get very bored and want to play something else, but that's why this question's a tough one, I guess.
That is a tough question you've asked there.
Yeah, it's a good question, Charlie. Harry, what about you?
Odd choice, but Shadow of the Colossus. Just because I love that game to bits. I know it inside and out, but whenever you play it, there's always something else you can find out. Like there's always a little thing you didn't know before, and there are these secrets that are rumored. I think like with enough time to practice it and find the secrets, I might find them. It might be a rumor, but
you've got the rest of your life, so yeah,
exactly.
Plenty of time.
I'll take that risk.
It's kind of a little bit like the anti-Animal Crossing. That's on my gaming backlog. I played the first like hour or so of it. Really, really enjoyed it, but it was so sad that I haven't come back to it just because it's just like I don't want to kill all these majestic beasts.
I mean, well, without ruining the ending to the game, it's sort of isn't that the point? You're questioning what you're doing as it goes along, and
yeah, it's just it's a feel bad game, whereas Animal Crossing is more of a feel good game.
Yeah, that's quite a depressing choice actually. Maybe I should change that. How about you, James?
Nope. Yeah.
Personally, it's a tough question. I think I'm torn between two games. So I realise this is slightly cheating, but I'm torn between Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, I know. GTA.
That's
so Grand
really
Theft Auto,
cheating.
Vice City.
Oh,
well, but Vice City simply for the 80s vibe. So I'm just driving around in Miami in the 80s, which I just love, and the music.
Great
just
soundtrack.
Great soundtrack. However, I know that I would get, because the storylines are fairly simple, and I've completed the game, so there's only a limited value in terms of repetition. It literally would just be me driving around, kind of enjoying myself. So the other game would be Fallout 4.
Okay.
Fallout 3 or 4, either, because they're just massive games and there's lots of different storylines. I've completed them both, but there's lots of different storylines that I haven't explored. So I'd obviously have plenty of time to go become an evil character, a really good, all the different characters, and try all the different storylines and really rinse the game. So yeah, that's probably what I go for from a longevity perspective.
Good choice.
I think that wraps it up, doesn't it, guys?
I guess so.
Anything else to add? Rory is our guest.
No, nothing to add, but it was nice sort of catching up and chatting on the Gamerdisco podcast.
Good to have you.
And if you want to have any more, if you want to listen to more chatting about video game movies, then look up the Games on Film podcast. It's available on all the different podcast channels, much like the Gamerdisco podcast, and you can follow it on social media, Twitter and Facebook at Games on Film Pod.
Very nice. And of course, we are on at Gamerdisco on most socials as well.
And of course, you can email us gamerdiscopodcast@gmail.com.
And you might get featured like that last question did.
Yeah. And there's a very good chance you will get featured.
Yes.
If you do email in. Okay, well, it just remains me to say a big thank you again to Rory, and we hope to have you on again very soon. Really appreciate all your insights, and definitely, guys, do check out his podcast. It's very good. Games on Film.
And maybe wait for a home release for Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, wait. Yeah, I would. It was not bad, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend the
5 out of 10, pushing a 6.
Yeah. Just wait for it to come onto Netflix or something.
That's quite a depressing note to end on, isn't it?
Other streaming platforms are available. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks very much.
Thanks for listening.
And thanks for listening, everyone. And we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Bye.